The fairy lights twinkled above 200 guests in the Melbourne Botanical Gardens. My cousin Brooke stood at the microphone in her ivory wedding dress, champagne glass raised, radiant smile fixed in place. She was thanking everyone for coming, listing names, sharing inside jokes. Then her eyes landed on me, sitting at the back table near the bathrooms. And, of course, thank you to my cousin Sky for finally taking a day off from her little job to be here. She paused for effect, and the crowd tittered. You know, she's still trying to find herself at 36. Some of us just take longer, I guess. Laughter rippled through the reception, polite, cruel, cutting. My aunt patted my hand sympathetically. My uncle looked away. And I just sat there, feeling every eye on me, the perpetual disappointment of the family. But I didn't say a word. I just smiled, raised my glass, and stayed until the bitter end. 1 week later, Brooke was curled up on her couch watching the Australian of the Year awards when my name flashed across the screen. And everything she thought she knew about me shattered in a single moment. My name is Sky Thornton. I'm 36 years old, and I'm a paramedic, but not the kind you're probably thinking of. I don't work regular shifts in the city, responding to heart attacks and broken bones. I'm a specialist rapid response paramedic deployed to disaster zones, remote emergencies, places where medical help is hours away and minutes matter. I've worked bushfire front lines, flood evacuations, multi-casualty incidents where chaos is the only constant. I've held pressure on wounds while helicopters circled overhead. I've made life or death decisions in seconds with nothing but my training and instinct. I've saved lives in conditions most people can't imagine. But to my family, I'm just Sky, the one who never became a real doctor like Brooke. Brooke and I grew up together in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne. She was always the golden child. Top marks, private school, accelerated medical degree, married a surgeon, bought a house in Toorak. Every family gathering was a highlight reel of her achievements. My mom would beam talking about Brooke's surgical rotations. My dad would ask detailed questions about her research, and then they'd turn to me with that careful, sympathetic tone. And how's the ambulance work going, Sky? Like it was a phase I'd eventually grow out of. If you've ever been the one your family doesn't understand, this story is for you. Stick with me, because what happens next is going to change everything. And listen, if you could hit that subscribe button right now, it would mean the world to me. These stories take time to share, and your support helps me keep going. Trust me, you're going to want to see where this goes. I didn't choose paramedicine because I couldn't get into medical school. I chose it because I saw what happened when help arrived too late. When I was 19, I was hiking in the Grampians with friends when a woman fell, compound fracture, bleeding, shock setting in. We called 000, but we were 40 minutes from the nearest road. By the time the rescue team arrived, I'd been holding her hand, keeping her conscious, applying pressure with my shirt. The paramedic who reached us first looked at me and said, "You did good. You probably saved her life." That moment changed everything. I didn't want to treat people in hospitals. I wanted to be the one who got there first, who worked in the impossible moments, who brought people back from the edge. I studied intensive care paramedicine, then disaster medicine, then trauma response. I volunteered with international humanitarian organizations, deploying to places where infrastructure had collapsed and medical systems had failed. Nepal after the 2015 earthquake, South Sudan refugee camps, Indonesian tsunami response. I learned to work with almost nothing, to improvise, to make decisions without backup. And when I came back to Australia, I joined the state's Rapid Response Unit, the team deployed when everything goes wrong at once. But my family never understood. At Christmas dinners, Brooke would talk about her surgeries, her research papers, her conference presentations. Everyone would lean in, fascinated, impressed. Then someone would politely ask me about work, and I'd mention a call-out or a training exercise, and eyes would glaze over. My uncle once said, "It's good that someone does the basic emergency work, Not everyone can be a specialist. I wanted to scream. I was a specialist, just not the kind they valued. The bushfires of 2019 and 2020 changed Australian summers forever. Black Saturday had been devastating, but these fires were different. They spread faster, burned hotter, consumed entire towns in hours. I was deployed to East Gippsland on New Year's Eve 2019 when the sky turned red and ash fell like snow. Our team set up triage in a school gymnasium while thousands evacuated to the beach. For 3 days, we worked nonstop. Burns, smoke inhalation, trauma, heart attacks triggered by stress. I treated a grandfather who'd driven his family through a wall of flame, a teenager who'd lost her home and her dog, a firefighter who'd collapsed after 16 hours straight. On the second day, a call came through. A family was trapped on a property 20 kilometers out, surrounded by fire, unable to evacuate. Roads were cut. Air support was grounded by smoke. But there was a window, maybe 30 minutes before the fire front hit. Our team leader looked at me. "You're the best we've got for this. Can you do it?" I grabbed my pack and went. We drove a heavy-duty rescue vehicle through conditions that should have been impossible. Smoke so thick you couldn't see the road. Heat that blistered paint. Trees falling across paths we'd cleared minutes before. When we reached the property, the family was huddled in a concrete water tank. 4 adults and 3 children, terrified, barely conscious from smoke inhalation. I assessed them fast, started oxygen, established IVs, got everyone stable enough to move. Then we loaded them into the vehicle and drove back through hell. One of the children stopped breathing halfway back. I did CPR in a moving truck while embers hit the windscreen and the world burned around us. She came back. When we reached the evacuation center, all 7 were alive. That little girl was alive because I didn't give up. Later, someone from the emergency services filmed a statement from me about the rescue. I didn't think much of it. It was just the job. But that video, combined with reports from incident commanders and testimonials from people I'd treated, ended up in a nomination. Months later, I got a letter. I'd been shortlisted for the Australian of the Year Awards, Local Hero category, for contributions to emergency medicine, for lives saved under extreme conditions, and for developing a new triage protocol that was now being taught nationally. I stared at that letter for a long time, not quite believing it. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anyone except my partner, Liam, who held me while I cried with something between joy and vindication. Have you ever achieved something huge and had no one to share it with because they'd never understood in the first place? Drop the word invisible in the comments if you felt that way. And please, if you haven't subscribed, do it now. What's coming next is going to hit you right in the heart. The awards ceremony was scheduled for 3 weeks after Brooke's wedding. When I got the invitation, I thought about bringing my family. Imagined them sitting in the audience, finally seeing what I did, who I was. But then Brooke's wedding happened. And that comment, delivered with a smile in front of 200 people, made my decision easy. I didn't tell them. I didn't invite them. I went alone with Liam and sat in the audience at the Sydney Opera House, surrounded by people who'd done extraordinary things. Firefighters, volunteers, advocates, everyday heroes who'd changed lives without ever expecting recognition. When they called the Local Hero category, my heart hammered so hard I thought everyone could hear it. The presenter read out the nominees. 3 incredible people who'd saved lives, built communities, made impossible things happen. Then he paused. And the 2024 Local Hero Award goes to Skye Thornton for her work in disaster response and emergency medicine. The room exploded in applause. I stood, legs shaking, and walked to the stage. The presenter shook my hand and passed me the award, a heavy glass sculpture that caught the stage lights. Then the screen behind me lit up with a video package they'd prepared. Footage of me in full gear at fire scenes, treating patients in the field, coordinating evacuations, interviews with people I'd saved. The family from the water tank, tears streaming, saying, "She drove through fire to get to us. She brought our daughter back to life. Ah, the incident commander from East Gippsland. Skye Thornton is one of the bravest, most skilled paramedics I've ever worked with. She runs toward danger when everyone else is running away. Statistics scrolled across the screen. 278 documented lives saved. Creator of the Thornton Triage Protocol, now used across 3 states. International humanitarian deployments to 6 countries. Specialist training delivered to over 400 emergency responders. The applause grew louder. I gave a short speech, thanking my team, my partner, the people who'd trusted me with their lives. I didn't mention my family. When I walked off stage, trophy in hand, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Seen. Back in Melbourne, Brooke was watching the broadcast from her new honeymoon-delayed couch. I found out later what happened from my aunt, who called me crying the next morning. Brooke had invited family over to watch the awards, thinking it would be background noise for her wedding photo slideshow. Then my name was announced. My aunt said the room went silent. My mum gasped. My dad leaned forward, confused, Brooke's face drained of color. They watched the entire video package. Watched me save lives. Watched survivors credit me with their existence. Watched experts call me one of Australia's best. When it ended, Brooke's husband turned to her and said quietly, "Isn't that your cousin? The one you said was still trying to find herself?" My phone exploded overnight. Texts from family members I hadn't heard from in years. Missed calls from my parents. A long, rambling message from Brooke that oscillated between congratulations and defensive justifications. I didn't respond to any of them. Not that night. I celebrated with Liam and my crew, the people who actually knew what I did, who valued it, who'd been there in the worst moments. We went to a pub in Newtown, had too many beers, laughed until we cried. One of my teammates raised a glass. To Skye, who's been saving lives while everyone else was busy not noticing. We drank to that. This is the moment everything shifts. Stay with me because the confrontation is coming and it's going to be raw. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. 3 days after the awards, my parents showed up at my apartment in Brunswick. I saw them through the window before they knocked, standing on the stoop looking uncomfortable. I almost didn't open the door. But I did. They came in, both of them looking older than I remembered. My mum spoke first. "Skye, we saw the awards. We had no idea. Why didn't you tell us?" I set down my coffee. "Would you have believed me?" She blinked. "What do you mean?" "If I'd told you I was nominated, would you have thought it was real? Or would you have assumed it was some participation award?" My dad shifted. "That's not fair." "Isn't it?" I looked at them both. "You've spent 16 years treating my career like a hobby, like something I'd grow out of. You've compared me to Brooke at every family event, made me feel like I failed because I didn't become a surgeon. You never asked about my work, never wanted to know what I actually do." My mum's eyes filled with tears. "We didn't realize. We thought ambulance work was. We didn't know you were doing all of this." "You could have asked," I said simply. "At any point in 16 years, you could have asked?" My dad tried a different angle. "Brooke feels terrible about what she said at the wedding." I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Brooke feels embarrassed. There's a difference. She wants to apologize. Does she want to apologize for the comment or for getting caught?" Silence. My mum reached for my hand. "We're proud of you, darling. We always were. We just didn't know how to show it." I pulled my hand back gently. "I don't need you to be proud now that there's a trophy. I needed you to respect me when I was just a paramedic. When I came home exhausted from 12-hour shifts. When I deployed overseas instead of coming to Christmas. When I chose this life because it mattered to me." My dad's voice cracked. "What do you want from us?" I thought about that. Really thought about it. "I want you to understand that my work has always been valuable. Not because I won an award, but because I save lives. That's been true since the day I qualified. The trophy doesn't change that. My mom nodded slowly. You're right. We should have seen it. They left soon after. It wasn't a movie reconciliation. It was awkward, painful, incomplete. But it was a start. Brooke took longer. She sent texts I didn't answer, called and left voicemails that oscillated between apology and defensiveness. Finally, 2 weeks after the awards, she showed up at the station during my shift. I was restocking the response vehicle when I saw her standing by the fence in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater, looking completely out of place. I walked over slowly. Brooke. Sky, can we talk? I glanced at my watch. I've got 10 minutes before a possible call-out. She nodded, swallowing hard. I saw the awards. I saw everything, and I'm so sorry for what I said at the wedding. It was cruel and wrong, and I've been an awful cousin. I crossed my arms. Why did you say it? She looked at the ground. Honestly, because I was jealous. I blinked. Jealous of what? Of you, she said quietly. Of the fact that you love what you do, that you have purpose. I became a doctor because it's what everyone expected. I work in a private practice doing cosmetic procedures because it pays well. I save exactly 0 lives. And you? You run into burning buildings. You bring people back from death. You matter. And I've spent my whole life trying to feel like I matter by making you feel like you don't. Her honesty caught me off guard. Brooke. I don't expect you to forgive me, she interrupted. I just needed you to know that I see you now. Really see you. And you're extraordinary. You always were. I stood there, processing. Part of me wanted to stay angry. But another part, the part that had held dying people's hands and told them everything would be okay, knew that anger was exhausting. I appreciate that, I said carefully. But if we're going to rebuild any kind of relationship, you need to understand something. My value doesn't come from trophies or recognition. It comes from the work. It always has. She nodded, tears streaming. I understand. My radio crackled. Multi-vehicle collision, northbound on the Eastern Freeway. All units respond. I grabbed my gear. I have to go. Brooke stepped back. Be safe. I nodded and climbed into the truck. As we pulled away, sirens wailing, I glanced in the mirror. She was still standing there watching us go. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the weight of her judgment. I just felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the focus that came before every call-out. Someone needed help. And I was going to get there first. In the months that followed, things slowly shifted. My family made more effort. They asked about my work genuinely, listened to my stories, stopped comparing me to Brooke. Brooke and I met for coffee occasionally, awkward at first, then gradually easier. She told me she was thinking about volunteering, maybe doing pro bono medical work for refugees. I want to feel like what I do matters, she said. I understood that more than she knew. We weren't close the way we'd been as kids. Too much damage, too many years. But we were rebuilding something honest. The Australian of the Year award sat on my shelf at home, next to photos from deployments and patches from international missions. It was beautiful, meaningful, but it wasn't the thing I was proudest of. The thing I was proudest of was the text I got 2 months later from the mother of the little girl I'd resuscitated in the rescue vehicle. Grace started school today. She drew a picture of you. She says when she grows up, she wants to save people like Miss Sky did. That message made me cry harder than any award ever could. My work continued. More call-outs, more deployments, more impossible situations where training and instinct and sheer will made the difference between life and death. I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because someone had to. Because when everything falls apart, someone needs to run toward the chaos instead of away from it, and I was good at it. Really good. That was enough. It had always been enough. If you've ever been underestimated by the people who were supposed to know you best, I want you to hear this. Your value isn't determined by their ability to see it. You don't need a trophy or a public moment or external validation to know you matter. You matter because of what you do when no one's watching, because of who you help, because of the difference you make in moments that will never make headlines. That's real success. That's real worth. And no one can take it from you. What do you think? Should I have forgiven Brooke? Or should I have kept my distance? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. And if this resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button. More real, powerful stories are coming your way. Thank you for being here. And remember, the most important work is often the work nobody sees until it's too late. Don't wait for recognition. Just keep showing up.